Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football with two of the hottest European football pundits on YouTube as well.
Absolutely.
Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill. McCubbs, how are we doing? Champions League back this week.
Champions League back this week. Everything's, full steam ahead. It's been good. I thought last night's, Wednesday nights, weren't that entertaining. I feel like everyone who was supposed to win won, aside from PSG. But Tuesday night was thoroughly entertaining, I thought, and I can't remember any of the results now. But we can.
We watched Inter Milan Barcelona.
We did, yeah. That's
not
it.
Together.
That's it. Actually, we didn't. We were just exchanging messages on WhatsApp. It was a bit of a shame. I would have loved to have watched the Napoli game in hindsight. The Barca Inter game was interesting-ish. Also a little bit kind of dull. I thought Barcelona quite disappointing. But nevertheless, bit of drama. It was good. And it was good to see Inter actually get a result because they have desperately needed one for a while, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. There was so much controversy in that game with the Denzel Dumfries handball not being picked up despite it going to VAR. Didn't get that.
Great.
And Fati then getting done on that handball when it take a deflection from about a foot in front. I mean, by the letter of the law, probably should be a handball, and then Pedri scores. There was also a couple of offside goals as well. It was chaotic in terms of decisions, but as you say, not a lot of clear-cut opportunities. Henry, did you enjoy the midweek action?
Yeah, I did. Jude Bellingham, I know we've gushed a lot about him recently. To see him captain the side, and then I was watching his interview again this morning afterwards. He's played 102 games now for Dortmund. He's only 19 years old. First English teenagers captain, certainly of Dortmund in the Champions League.
But I think he's the first English teenager to captain anyone in the Champions League.
Third youngest ever.
Yeah. That's epic. I mean, he's quality. But yeah, love that. Love Club Brugge beating Atletico. Juckler, whatever he's called. He's wicked. And actually, some great performances across the board. I found it really interesting. The Ajax Twitter after that game, absolutely furious. Leads in quite nicely to this actually. Furious with Schreuder because he basically came out and said that his team weren't good enough and that they weren't expected to be on the level of Liverpool and Napoli. And I think a lot of people turned around and said, hold on a second. We are expected to compete with them, let alone lose 6-1 and suffer their worst ever defeat in European history at home. He's on thin ice because they're annoyed anyway. We saw they drew with Go Ahead Eagles the other day. About time they got a shout out on this show. And then but yeah, it's looking a bit nervy for Schreuder if he can't get it together. Trailing in the league at the moment. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen there. And also one more shout out to Roger Schmidt, leading Benfica to 13 wins from 14, then drawing a PSG. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely excellent start to that group as well. If you can hear some crackling in the background, there's a speaker that's making a little bit of a weird noise, but hopefully it's not. There it is. Hopefully it's not being picked up too much by the mics. We can't seem to turn it off. We have looked for the plug everywhere. But as Henry says, we're going to talk about managers. Basically, was it 2 weeks ago we talked about managers under pressure, and as of this week, two of those managers, Gerardo Seoane and Julian Lopetegui, are no more, fired, gone. And their two replacements are in the door, in Xabi Alonso, and just before I got off the bus, Jore Sampaoli at Sevilla as well. Looks like Lopetegui's going to go to Wolves. So today we want to talk about how those new managers will do at their new clubs. Can they fix the issues that have plagued their season so far? We're going to kick off with Xabi Alonso because he's the sexy new man in European football management. Henry, are you excited by this? I mean, there's a lot to do at Leverkusen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of half-decent managers out there that I kind of could have seen gone for that job. So for another new manager to enter into that kind of circle is fascinating. But I mean, first and foremost, Xabi Alonso, I think everyone likes him. He seems to be one of these footballers.
Cool guy.
He's one of these footballers that seems to unite. Everyone respects him for what he is, for his kind of playing style, what he did at Liverpool, what he then did at Real Madrid, even Bayern Munich, just exceptional across the board, just consummate professional, over 100 caps for Spain. I mean, what a guy. So, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I mean, if we just reflect on Seoane, it has kind of gone all wrong for him, hasn't it? I mean, which is a shame because they were so good last season. Scored great attacks, scored something like 80 goals in the Bundesliga. Excellent going forward, as you say. Schick's really dropped off this season, just 2 goals so far. Hoyset, they've struggled to get him into the game. I mean, it was a good summer for them in terms of signings and not losing any of their main men. Moussa Diaby, lots of interest from Newcastle. He stuck around. So there's really no reason why they would have had such a dramatic fall off. But yeah, losing to Elversberg in the DFB Pokal, that's really bad. Obviously, their Champions League group is maybe a positive distraction. Brugge sort of strolling there. Atletico Madrid are there for the taking. But I also think Porto will probably come out of that group at this point. So yeah, they have managed to get a win there. But I think this is their second worst ever start to a season since they were promoted in 1978 back into the division, which is testament actually to Bayer Leverkusen's level that they've been there and thereabout. Yeah. They are so good. But yeah, I don't think before they'd ever lost 4 games on the bounce to start the Bundesliga season. That had never ever happened before, and it's just sort of got worse and worse. So yes, I do think it was right for him to go after that defeat to Porto in the Champions League. It is really quite sad for them and for him, but I think you've made a nice point. He'll be all right, Seoane. I think someone else will take him on. Where was he before? Young Boys, or he was excellent in Switzerland. So yeah, he will get another good job again. I hope he doesn't fall into that kind of rotation of going from club to club. I hope he can establish himself somewhere, because they were playing positive football. But yes, Xabi Alonso, it is a bit of a wild card to go to him next. A lot of people pointing out that his Real Sociedad B side got relegated from the Liga Segunda last season. It's not one that's spoken about loads, but it is actually a difficult division. If you look at the bottom two at the moment, it's Leganés and Malaga. This season, so there are a lot of decent teams there, a lot of sleeping giants that have struggled to get out of that back into La Liga, Real Oviedo, etc. So it isn't something to be sniffed at. But yeah, from what I understand, he's done a good job. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's obviously progressive, obviously worked under some of the best managers. Exceptional playing career, great temperament. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with this squad. I will say, I remember Sami Hyypiä taking this job a few years ago and it not going well for him. It started off strongly. So I hope he doesn't kind of fall down that trap that Hyypiä did. But yeah, Xabi Alonso, go for it, mate.
Yeah,
thrilled.
Absolutely.
Low risk. It's not massive risk, this job.
Yeah, I suppose it's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got to get an opportunity somewhere, and he has kind of come through. I think he did Real Madrid's under-13s. I think they went a season unbeaten, which is not that big an achievement considering Real Madrid's academy is probably by far the best in Spain, or one of the best in Spain, along with Barcelona's. So that's not that big an achievement. But then also earning his stripes at Real Sociedad B, as you said, a few seasons there. He was linked with the Gladbach job as well. In March 2021, when Marco Rosa, it was clear he was going to go to Dortmund. So he's clearly very well respected in German football because of his time at Bayern, and he has been very highly talked of by Ancelotti and Pep Guardiola, who succeeded in German football as well. But McCubs, does this feel like, as Henry says, like some other German coaches might be a little bit miffed? I mean, what do you see? How can you predict what Alonso's going to do, or is it's just a bit of a wild card?
It is a wild card. I mean, at the same time, like there is, there has been a fair amount written about what he's done at Sociedad, isn't there? Like we know kind of the kind of formations he likes to play. I think he originated with a kind of 4-2-3-1. He's now more in favour of a 3-4-3 or 3-3-2, sorry, than he did a Todd Bowley there in possession. So like he's quite a dynamic attacking manager. Like I think in many respects, I think the fact that he was linked with Mönchengladbach, and this was a time when they still had what's his name? Forget his name now, but who's just gone to Leipzig, the sporting director at Gladbach.
Max Eberl.
The fact that he was considering him for the job is testament to the fact that he's clearly someone with the capabilities of succeeding in the Bundesliga. I don't think that's a coincidence that he's taken the second Bundesliga job that he's been linked with. However, it will always be a risk. This is a guy who's not managed at senior level before. I also think in some ways he's probably had it quite comfortable so far in his coaching career. Real Sociedad is his home.
Yeah.
He came through there. Their academy is obviously very well storied. I think I was reading last season, I think 3 months into the campaign, they'd already fielded 18 players in the first team who had come through the academy. It's pretty insane, and it's a very kind of homely club, really built on kind of nurturing primarily local talent, such as Xabi Alonso. And so he was very, very kind of at home in that system, and before as well at Real Madrid, as a club that he'd spent many years at too. So this is the first time that he's coming into somewhere where he's never been before as a coach.
And they're not in a great position.
And they're not in a great position either. However, they do have tons of attacking talent.
Yeah.
And I do there's something about this side where it's like, yeah, it's not quite worked. But like you were saying, Henry, like they managed to keep hold of all their best attacking talent last term. And then they added Klozek and Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like that's a team that's like ready to explode just with like a slight change in setup. Like I feel like, you know, like in terms of a group of players taking over, like I feel like I don't know. I feel like he'll be really, really excited. So in that sense, I think it'll be really interesting. And obviously their defence has also been, you know, a bit of an issue this term. Well, that's to put it mildly, actually. That has been a huge issue this term. But at the same time, they've got like, you know, players like Tapsoba and Hincapié still there, who like, again, two of the like most highly rated young defenders in Europe. Like, I don't know. I'm quite excited in that sense. He's obviously like been working with young players for a long time, and this is a very young, vibrant team. So, I'm very interested to see what he can do.
Absolutely. I can't wait to his first Champions League game. He's on the sidelines. He's going to be a slick-suited guy as well.
I feel like people just like him because he's incredibly good looking.
He is very good looking. Yeah, he's got a magnificent hairline, which has always made me very jealous indeed. But yeah, best of luck to Xabi Alonso at Bayer Leverkusen. As you say, so much young talent there. I think they fielded one of the average youngest like starting formations in the Bundesliga at the moment. I think it's the third youngest.
Okay.
So there is a lot of positives there. It just hasn't worked for this season. I can't wait for a much more detailed read on someone who watches Bayer Leverkusen, you know, every minute of their game to find out what really went wrong with Seoane. Because as Henry says, I didn't see it coming at all. Right, let's move on to Jore Sampaoli, who has gone to Sevilla, back to the club where he was in 2016-17. I was actually looking at his Wikipedia earlier. It is crazy the amount of clubs he's managed. It is an enormous list, and he's done some weird things in the last few years. So he left Sevilla in 16-17 after a really good season there. They improved quite significantly on their season prior, then got the Argentina job, and Argentina at that point were really struggling to qualify for the World Cup in 2018. And then as we talked about on one of our shows this week, or maybe just in the office this week, they were really pretty bad at the 2018 World Cup under Sampaoli. People were really unhappy with the balance of the side, you know, the players that he picked, the sort of lack of cohesion in defence as well, which has been their sort of, you know, their Achilles heel for years now. And they drew with Iceland. They then got beaten 3-0 by Croatia, beat Nigeria in that game that Messi scored that wonderful goal. And then they got beaten by France in the last 16 in probably one of my favourite World Cup games ever, just because I was in France at the time. I think it was 4-3. It was the Benjamin Pavard game where he scored that unbelievable goal. And the French, they were getting excited at that stage, I'll tell you that for free. And then Sampaoli went, he sort of licked his wounds, got fired from Argentina, went to Santos and Atletico Mineiro, quite random, and then went to Marseille. And we were pretty hot on Marseille last year. I think they were really good to watch. He got some great returns. Out to the likes of Guendouzi, William Saliba obviously really nurtured there as well. And then just days before the season started, quit because they didn't back him in the transfer market in his eyes and they didn't manage to get back Saliba. So he's quite chaotic, but in terms of the big issues at Sevilla Macubs, it's going forward. And Sampaoli has generally been known as quite an attacking coach. Do you think he'll be able to instigate enough change at Sevilla?
Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, yeah, it's a difficult one to call, isn't it? I mean, the cool thing is that, like, you know, when he did leave Sevilla in 2017, that was also when Monchi kind of originally left to go to Roma. I'm pretty sure it was 2017. Yeah, so like to see them back together again is cool. You know, like, and he is a manager who's like really capable of igniting kind of singular players. Like we saw that with Nzonzi that season. I think he was one of the best defensive midfielders in Europe when he was at Sevilla. And before that, his career hadn't really properly got going. And you know, in the years after that, he was, you know, had great stints in multiple places, didn't he? So like, I think in that sense, yes, I think he's, you know, as we saw at Marseille, he's a manager who is capable of bringing players together and quite a disparate group of players as well. I mean, like, we talk about, I know, Henry, you in particular, quite baffled by a lot of Sevilla's business this summer, quite rightly as well. And when he came into Marseille, it was, well, I mean, actually he came into Marseille just before the summer of last year, but last summer they really splashed out on a number of players, especially the amount of loans that they got in. And it was quite a mad-looking squad, and he managed to make it work, And I forget what is it the 3-3-3-1 formation?
Yeah.
He's a bit of a Bielsa disciple, isn't he, Sampaoli?
I think he mixed it up a bit last year.
Yeah, but
but
he's unconventional in terms of the roles that he gets his players to play, especially the defenders. Obviously, we saw Saliba really come into his own in his system last term, and it's a shame that Jules Koundé isn't still at Sevilla because I think he would have done some pretty mad stuff with Koundé. I feel like we would have seen Koundé just kind of parked in midfield for a lot of the time. But as for the talent that is there, it just doesn't feel like as good a squad as they've had in the past. Probably not as good a squad as they had last season. We're yet to see the kind of benefits of Isco and Januzaj, etc. I do think Isco can get back to at least near the level that he was before. I do think he's technically good enough for that, but in a side which has been kind of hemorrhaging points and conceding so many shots this season, it's difficult. That midfield in general is just incredibly old. The attack, Campos loaned to Ajax, wasn't he, this year? En-Nesyri hasn't looked like the player that he was in 2021 for quite a while now. And these are the kind of projects that he needs to kind of undertake very, very quickly. Especially someone like En-Nesyri, maybe we could see him blossom again under Sampaoli. Their defence is a big worry, and Sampaoli's not a particularly defensive coach, so I don't know what you guys make of that. I was a big problem for him.
I was writing about that yesterday, actually, for Sevilla, trying to look at what's gone wrong, and selling Diego Carlos and Koundé in the same window, who were their sort of bedrock. Excellent defensive partnership. We've seen Koundé go into Barcelona and become almost the main defender there already. That is a big loss. And I was looking, there are two main defenders at the moment. Tanguy Nianzou, who obviously a lot of hype about him when he went from PSG to Bayern Munich. He's barely played, didn't he, at Bayern Munich, has gone to Sevilla now. He's only, 20, hardly any sort of major first team football. Then he's playing alongside mainly Quique Salas, a young Spanish defender who's also 20 years old. So they've got a really experienced back line. And the third defender they're using is a guy called Karim Rekic, who's been on their bench for the last 2 years, hardly even played. And he came from Hertha Berlin. So he's not got that much credentials either. Marçal, who they bought in from Galatasaray, is barely featured. That we're seeing Fernando having to drop into centre back at moments when really they want him further up the pitch as one of their more senior players. Their defence is. If he mixes up the formation, it'd be amazing to see what he could do. Someone like Nianzou, to see if he could kind of create that Saliba model. By the way, Arsenal were never going to sell Saliba. I don't know why he got in his knickers in a twist at Marseille about all of that. At the end of the day, they backed Tudor pretty well towards the end of the window. But I'm just worried. I just think it's almost, I can't see this group of players being gelled together very well. En-Nesyri, as you were saying, he's got something like 6 goals in his last year and a half worth of football. Not good enough at all. Lamella's got 1 assist this season. Isco's got 1 goal this season. Januzaj, he's one of these players who's good in moments, isn't he? Let's face it. There's a reason he's not where he was predicted to be, because he can't put a consistent run of decent games together. So I'm worried. It might take a maverick like Sampaoli to look at that squad, sort of shake it around a bit and see what he can sort of deal out again. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it is going to take a bit of a mix-up. They just, against Dortmund, they looked so bad. So bad. They're devoid of confidence. You could feel the negative energy in the stadium there. I think this is their worst start in La Liga in 40 years or something ridiculous at the moment. They're really, really struggling and hemorrhaging shots, as you were saying. So I just think this season it's all about getting mid-table. I cannot see them getting anywhere near European football at the moment. Although I do think that Sampaoli is a very interesting decision. Back in a sort of his native-speaking country, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it will be intriguing. But as you say, they're closer to the relegation. They're closer to the 20th place than European football. So plenty of work to do there. And the man who has just left Sevilla, this is the one that's not confirmed as we film this, but Julian Lopetegui is the massive, massive favourite to take over at Wolves. And it feels like quite an interesting one because Sevilla have really struggled for goals this year and entertainment, as have Wolves. Less so on the entertainment front, but definitely on the cutting edge. And they have been quite unfortunate. Obviously, Raul Jimenez has never really looked the same player since that horrific head injury against Arsenal. They brought in Sasa Kaladzic. He did his ACL 45 minutes into his debut. They had to sign 35-year-old Diego Costa, who actually looked pretty sprightly on his first appearance off the bench against Wolves, but he hasn't played professional football since January or February, so it's going to take him a while for him to get up to speed as well. So I feel like Bruno Lage was slightly unfortunate. At the same time, his run of form, I think he took 8 points from a possible 45. So it was really pretty damning at the end of last season, the start of this one. I mean, it looked like they might finish in the European spots last year, to drift down into mid-table, and then this year, right down near the bottom. But McCubs, Julian Lopetegui is an intriguing one, because I think if you just judge him on the final, on the calendar year of 2022 at Sevilla, you might be like, why have Wolves gone for him? But his credentials previously, he got the Spain job, he got the Real Madrid job. Like, he's no mug, is what I'm trang to say.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he was being tipped for the Man United job as recently as in March, I'm pretty sure, while Rangnick was still there, and because, Sevilla were comfortably in second place in the league in January. The job that he did there in a relatively short space of time was excellent. He won the Europa League.
Tough opponents as well.
Yeah, their best ever La Liga points tally. I mean, and they're not things to be sniffed at. But towards the end of last season, I think they probably just kind of reverted a bit to norm. I think they were performing above the level, or at least kind of getting results above their performances before that, and I think they kind of just reverted. I think they probably were just the third or fourth best team in Spain last term rather than the second best. And that drop off, there were issues there, and I think with him is that his teams aren't particularly entertaining, and I think that's probably why he's his stint in such a big job like Real Madrid was short-lived. Obviously, results weren't great as well, but it did feel like, even at the time, like a slightly strange appointment for them. Obviously, just as after Zidane had resigned, so it was a bit of a weird time at Real Madrid then, anyway. But at the same time, he is quite pragmatic. I don't think he'll necessarily stick to one certain formation. I think when he arrived at Sevilla, they played a lot of games at 4-4-2. Last season, he played a lot of. I think he played primarily the side in the 4-3-3. So I think it will be. I think he'll look at the players that he has and work out the system for them. It's not like Sampaoli, where you're going to have quite a dogmatic style of play. Or even say Bruno Lage, who was always wanting to shift to the shape that he was playing at the start of the year. So in that sense, I think he might be quite good for Wolves. He might just re-establish themselves as a kind of 9th, 10th place team who are very solid defensively, and can get results against the big teams every once in a while. He's obviously inheriting a less than ideal situation in terms of the Kaladzic situation, in terms of Pedro Neto not being at the level that he was before the injury. Diego Costa as well, not necessarily the easiest player to manage. Having just come into the club too. I think he's probably the safest appointment out of all of these, in that sense. It's difficult with Wolves. I don't really like, they don't have like the kind of ambitions of a Leverkusen or a Sevilla. So I don't think there's not going to be like fireworks, but I think he's probably the best manager they could have got.
Just staying in the Premier League has to be their prerogative at the moment, because they've got Fosun have got a whole stadium redevelopment they're trying to push through, trying to expand the Molineux, which would be epic once it's sort of filled in the sides and gone up to, I think it's like 50,000 they want to take it to.
Really?
Which should be pretty.
Are there enough people in Wolverhampton?
Maybe. I mean, they've definitely sold out their capacity, whatever it is, at the moment. And I know there's a big waiting list. I was reading about it. There's some really interesting stadium developments in the Premier League coming. But you're right. Injuries, absolutely ravaged of injuries. And actually, I was reading there's a lot of love still for Nuno in Wolves. They miss him. It was kind of a weird. He didn't really want to leave.
He did take them up, didn't he? Yeah.
He didn't really want to leave. They just sort of.
It's very emotional send-off.
I think they kind of just panicked, thinking they needed to evolve the club a bit more. But really, his style of football suited what they're trying to do down to the ground. And like you said, they just need to knuckle down and start grinding out points this season. Having to play Guedes as a centre forward at the moment, which really isn't why he was brought in.
And Neves at centre back.
Exactly, Neves at centre back. That is really poor, because considering he's one of the sort of prime central midfielders at the moment. So just grinding out results is what they need, and maybe Lopetegui in that way. A fresh start away from Sevilla, maybe he's the perfect choice.
There we have it. Right, guys, I'm going to warm you up for big match predictions just with a very quick prediction here. Who is finishing higher in their respective league this season under their new managers? Henry, Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen, Sampaoli's Sevilla, or Lopetegui's Wolves in their respective divisions?
I'm going to go for Sampaoli's Sevilla. I just think the ability to claw back some spaces in the middle of that table is going to be easier, and I think he knows what he's doing in terms of that. So I think it's going to be easier for them to have an immediate bump and sort of get themselves back in a certain position.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree. I was tempted by Leverkusen, but I think the Bundesliga is just too unpredictable. La Liga is more predictable, and Sevilla still have fourth or fifth best squad in Spain. So yeah, I'll go with him as well.
Fair enough.
What are you thinking?
I mean, I am known for playing the percentages in the big match predictions, but I'm not going to play them today. I think Leverkusen.
Okay.
Leverkusen getting back into the lower European mix. Not necessarily because I really believe in Xabi Alonso, but I prefer his squad that he's got available to the one at Sevilla, and I think Lopetegui would do well to finish above sort of 14th, to be honest, with Wolves this season with their issues at the moment. But guys, let us know what you guys make of these managerial appointments. Who do you think will finish higher in their respective leagues? Let us know in the comments down below. Let's get into the main predictions, those big match ones. Okay, big match predictions are back, but as we always do, let's do a quick review of last week's results. So last week, Bayern Munich versus Bayer Leverkusen. The Cubs went 4-1, actually the closest,
Very
annoyingly.
close. Incredibly
Henry
close.
went 2-0, I went 3-1, it was 4-0, so we all get a point, but no perfect scores for that. Inter Milan, Roma, Henry went 1-0 to Inter, the Cubs went for a 1-1 draw, I went 2-1 to Roma, so it was 2-1 to Roma, 3 points to me.
We egged you on to
Very
do that as well. That's so annoying. You
I
were going
wanted
to
to
do
go
it.
for the draw as well, yeah, no, that was, that just came down in my favour actually, and Inter started well in that game as well, but, you know, good stuff from Chris Smalling at the back post, getting me the 3 points, love it. PSG versus Nice, we all went PSG, but none of us got the perfect score, which was 2-1. I was the closest, I went 2-0. So that was 1 point to all of us. So the scores on the doors, which will appear on screen now, are Doogie on 22, Henry on 10, and McCubbs on 6. So a few perfect scores, guys. I know I say it every week, but it can change. I'm just getting one per week at the moment.
I just need to get luckier, man. That Bayern game, man.
Yeah, you were very, very
just needed
close.
a goal. Just one goal.
Speaking of, no, we're going to actually come to Bayern in our second game. We're going to talk about Milan versus Juventus first up, Saturday 5 p.m. 5th versus 7th. There are 4 points between them as it stands. The Cubs, as you are bottom of the table right now, I will give you the floor. How do you see this going?
I would normally back Milan in this tie, but they are absolutely ravaged with injuries.
Yeah.
You know, what's new at Milan? I just think every season, I don't know what's going on there, but like clearly, I don't know. They just always have like huge injury lists, and I think Mike Magnon's a huge miss. I think, you know, that Chelsea game. I mean, I think that Chelsea game in general, Milan were incredibly poor. I think it was a bit of a shame because it was, you know, obviously the champions of Italy going up against the side in Chelsea who have had a so-so start to the season, and
you get the talk sport pundits.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think you know, I think it's, you know, Milan in the Champions League this year is a big opportunity to show kind of what Italian football is about. Turns out Napoli are the team doing that, but at the same time, I was just hoping for a bit more of a classic European tie at Stamford Bridge. I thought maybe, you know, they would roll back the years, but you know, they were without so many players, and I think Mike Magnon is a huge miss for them at the back. I think
Sasarosanu's not good enough.
Yeah, I think he saves that. You know, the Reece James shot is huge, is obviously very powerful, but I think Magnon still saves that. I think that's bread and butter save for Mike Magnon. I think just the general command of that back line was missing, and just the general defensive structure of Milan was all over the place, I thought. So he's obviously a big miss, and let's not forget Theo Hernandez was also missing. Calabria's out till the new year, I think, as is Florenzi. Or I don't think Florenzi's out till the new year, sorry, but Calabria is. So they're without their captain. Serginho Dest has been pretty bad since arriving,
It's a shame.
which is a shame. I think we keep on saying it. There is someone in there, but like, I just don't think in this system there's someone. There is a player in there, but I think his attacking qualities outweigh his defensive qualities so much that in a team where the right back really does need to be quite good defensively, it just doesn't work. And who else is out? Salamaca's is obviously out. They had Simon Kjær as well. Simon Kjær not as big a miss, but Salamaca's, who I think did have a decent start to the season. Krunic was playing in there the other night, wasn't he? So yeah, they're just without a lot of key players, and that could be fine. Leao can bail them out. Giroud has obviously proved himself to be a really solid centre forward for them, but I think that defence was a big part of their success last season, and I do think they're in a bit of a bad way at the moment in that sense. Juve, on the other hand, I think are perhaps on the up a little bit. I know it was only Maccabi Haifa, but I think they did look
Maccabi Haifa.
I think they did look a bit more confident. They obviously was it Bologna they beat 3-0 on the weekend as well. I think they're a bit on the up. I think this might be a Juve victory actually. So I think I'm going to go. We'll go 2-1 Juve.
2-1. Yeah. Henry, are you in agreement?
Yes, that was actually the score I was thinking about.
Straight to win that.
We joke about Maccabi Haifa. I think they've put on a good show so far. they've put themselves.
They scored a great goal.
They put themselves in a guy called Sherry, I believe, in their attacking midfielder. He's been quality this season. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Juventus they've kind of ridden that kind of Allegri negative wave and grinding out a few results, as you say. Games you expect them to win, but shout out to Milik, by the way, because he's come in. I don't think he was just meant to be a backup striker, but I think he's been excellent since he's gone there. He's just somebody who knows how to score in the Serie A, and he's been sort of outperforming Vlahovic at certain points this season, even though Vlahovic is a brilliant striker. So yeah, I'm with you. I just think there's too many holes in that Sevilla, AC Milan side at the moment. I mean, I got this wrong last time when I back against them, but I'll go for 1-0 to Juventus. It could be a draw, could be a 0-0 even, but I will go 1-0 to Juventus on this occasion.
I think the thing with Allegri as well is that I think just weirdly he played that they were playing 4-4-2 a lot last season. It didn't really work, but now they actually have a squad that actually does suit 4-4-2 a lot more. And I feel like those early weeks playing 4-3-3 with Kostic as the left winger in a front three and that mid, it just didn't really, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. Whereas the last 2 or maybe even the last 3 games, they've gone 4-4-2, and it just does seem, when you look at it, it's like, yeah, those players actually seem to suit those kind of positions. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with that in this game. I feel like, if he matches up Milan a little bit more like that, I feel like they'll probably have some success.
Nice. Yeah, I think if they're in top full contention when Pogba sort of comes back to full fitness, whenever that's going to be, then I think they can have an okay season. Because Di Maria on Wednesday night was really impressive as well. I think he got 3 assists in that game. Having said that, I just think this has got a draw written over it. Their last results against each other have generally been draws. I think both their games last year, I think it was 1-1 and 0-0 in the league. I'm going 1-1 for this. I don't think it will necessarily be a thriller. But there we have it. Right, let's move on to Dortmund versus Bayern. There will be goals in this one. I think you'd be mad to go for a 0-0 or a 1-1 in this one. Saturday, 5:30 p.m, 4th versus 3rd. Remarkably, despite I think Dortmund, in my head, have had a worse start, they're actually only separated on goal difference in the Bundesliga. Henry, you can go first on this one. This one, I think it's, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think?
You just never know what Dortmund are going to do. It's just seesaw.
You kind of know what they're going to do in Der Klassiker, though.
Seesaw,
they're going to choke.
Yeah, seesaw from smashing teams to getting beat. I mean, it's really quite confusing at the moment. Then again, Bayern obviously slapped Victoria Pilsen. That's going to happen, isn't it? But there's that great video of the Victoria players discovering that they were in that group stage and just gushing about all the players they were going to get to come up against.
Oh, really?
It was really, really cool. They knew this was going to happen. They were just, they were like, Inter, Bayern, Barca, whatever. So it is quite cool for them. But yeah, this one, oh goodness. I think Sané is just playing so well at the moment, isn't he? 7 goals, 1 assist in 11 league games. I think we've been saying this for a while. He was great at City. He got that horrible injury. For some reason, struggled a little bit at the start at Bayern Munich, but now he's back in a vengeance. I love Sané. I think when he's on form, he's one of the best attacking midfielders.
Yeah, I used to always think he can only play on the left wing, but actually at the moment he's just playing everywhere so well.
He's amazing. I mean, some of the finishing against Victoria in midweek was so good. Musiala's just not relenting at the moment. It is in Dortmund though. That's the only thing that's slightly tripping me up at the moment. And I'm going to go for my 2-2. I'm going to go for my classic 2-2.
There he has it, the cursed result.
This is the week. This is the week. I'm telling you, it's coming in. I'm going to go for 2-2. I think Dortmund can score. They can certainly concede. Bayern haven't been blown 2s away. Sod it. Let's go for the 2-2 and see what happens.
2-2, stick with it. McCubs, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just having a look at their last. They had a head-to-head. Bayern 24. In the last 8 meetings, they've scored 21 and conceded 10. Bayern Munich. So it's not actually, on average, they've been winning every game 2-1 essentially. But having said that, Dortmund do have a fair amount of injuries. I mean, Royce is a big miss, isn't he? Hummel's at the back. You didn't see that bit of the script, did you, Henry? I didn't look at that bit of research.
I didn't read that they'd won their last 8 meetings.
Straight meetings.
No, having said that, like, it is always like at the Allianz, it's almost always guaranteed that Bayern are going to win like 4-0 or something ridiculous. Whereas at Dortmund, it's not as clear cut. But I do think Bayern will win this. I just think that front three. The thing is with Bayern is that they had a bit of a poor start to the season, whatever. But like when they do get going, I think maybe Man City are the only team in Europe who are genuinely better than them. They are just, their ball retention, their ability to retain the ball and move it around quickly is just mesmerising. And I think that they have fairly minimal injuries, especially in the key areas. Their midfield looks pretty solid. Dortmund can turn it on, and they have like their ability to get big performances out from young players is tremendous, especially this season. But Bayern I think they're just the next level. I think I'll just go for 2-0. I'll go 2-0.
2-0, fair enough. I think it might be more. I think if you did if you looked at the 2 11s on paper, especially with Dortmund's injuries, I don't think anyone gets into the Bayern side except for Bellingham, to be honest, player for player. I think the way, as you say, the way that midfield can control possession, and then the dynamism of that front line at Bayern, where you just don't know where the threat's coming from, you can't really predict what they're going to do next. They're also comfortable in and out of possession. They're not too arrogant to not run in behind as well. Like, they're all prepared to make those runs that are quite sacrificial to make space for others. I think they're a phenomenal side to watch. I think this is... What did you say?
2-0.
I think 3-1. 3-1 for me. Right, let's move on to Real Sociedad versus Villarreal. Sunday, 5:30 p.m. 7th versus 8th. 1 point between them. Probably the most entertaining game in La Liga this weekend. And 2 sides we haven't really talked about that much. Henry, what's your thoughts for this one?
I really like Sociedad this season. I think they're really fun. I watched their highlights last year, 5-3 against Girona. Some really great goals in there. It's great. Great to see him, because I saw he scored like 4 last season on a loan. They got him back on loan again, and he's already beaten that total. He looks much happier, and I'm pleased for him because obviously he had that amazing year at Trabzonspor. Didn't work out at Crystal Palace, and it didn't really work out at Leipzig either, did it? So I'm pleased that he's found a club where it's going well. Takefusa Kubo as well. He's had a brilliant.
I think he's so good to watch. I love him.
Epic. 2 goals, 2 assists already. I think you tweeted about the Japanese team at this World Cup, didn't you? There is so much forward talent in that Japanese side. It's nuts.
All, not to dismiss them as a potential threat, they're all quite small. I don't think that will necessarily matter.
They're all inverted wingers. That's all they are.
They're all kind of playing the same position. It's just not ideal. But there's a lot of talent.
One to watch out for in the next few weeks. I like them. Joint 4th best attack in La Liga behind Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Athletic Club. Which I'm not surprised, by the way, that Valverde's got them playing well. He's a brilliant coach. I don't know why. I can't believe he was unemployed for as long as he was. He did such a good job at that Barcelona side. So I'm really excited to see what Sociedad can do in this game. Villarreal, always a tough nut to crack in many regards, certainly under Unai Emery, lots of draws. I'm going to back Sociedad for the win here, so I'm going to go for a 2-1. I just think they've got enough excitement running through that same... Actually, sorry, I'm going to go for 2-0 instead. I just think Moreno being injured is hard. Obviously, Yeremy Pino and Alex Bain have been playing well, but I just think Sociedad are going to keep them out. I'll go for a 2-0 victory. I hope I don't live to regret changing my score though.
Okay, McCubs, do you see any more luck for Villarreal in this?
No, actually, I'm going to nick your 2-1. Actually, I was thinking about that already.
Cheeky.
Sociedad they have had a good start to the season, and I mean, so has Villarreal. I think they've looked 2 of the best of the rest in Spain. But I think Moreno missing, Danjuma hasn't featured a huge amount this season as well, has he? I think like Alex Baena, who like no one really saw coming at the start of the year, is their top scorer so far. I just think there's a bit more about Sociedad at the moment, and ultimately they're playing at home. I think home advantage would just do it for them. To be honest.
Just quickly, because they bought Umar Sadiq and he immediately got injured, tore his ACL. So the fact that Sorlot's actually stepped up
quite well as well.
after Isak's gone as well, that is really, really important. So yeah.
Nice. So you went 2-0, you went 2-1. Shall I play the percentages? I might play the percentages. I might go 1-1. Not going to be a thriller for me this game. To be fair, I'd normally back Sociedad, but I'm just going to go for that. Go for those 3 points. Yeah, 1-1 for me. Although, yeah, as I said, or as Henry said earlier, Sorlot, great to see him. Was it his first goal against Girona? Was really nice. A lot of venom in that strike, and hopefully Villarreal can get Danjuma back firing because they need him right now. Right, let's move on to some quickfire questions. We've already talked a bit about Club Brugge, but Jalmu XD wanted us to talk about them. Phenomenal side. Fair play to them. Let's talk about Vasi Detalanara, 8th question. Is Spalletti getting enough credit for what he is doing at Napoli? Henry, what's your opinion on this? Because I don't think he is.
No, he's not. Another one where you look at, he's been at so many clubs, hasn't he? He's managed so long, and actually the fact that he was out of management for a year and a half, 2 years, and then came back.
As long as that, yeah.
Was amazing. But I also think that plenty of credit needs to go to the sporting director, Cristiano Giuntoli, which is the name of it. So, because he's a proper like Italian looking, slick, greased back hair. Sort of, let's not forget that in the summer,
cigars?
I'd bet. Yeah, they were really stressing out. Spalletti was stressing out, saying about what the issues with the squad, and I just think their recruitment this summer has been unbelievable, and to have done it so late in the window as well, because you look at that forward line now, and they have 4 different goal scorers in there, and that is just so important, isn't it? I mean, Simeone can come off the bench. He's scoring goals already. And this is the thing, they've all got off to goal-scoring starts. I think that is such a big thing for a new striker going to a new club. And that's why I feel a bit sorry for Darwin Nunez. I think if he just converted a few of the chances, we wouldn't be fluffing about him as much. But yeah, Simeone is scoring goals. But Raspadori is showing he can play centre-forward by himself. I never knew he was capable of playing by himself as a centre-forward. He's doing it. He's scoring great goals. And then, Osimhen hasn't even featured recently, and it hasn't even mattered as a result of that. And then you got Kavica Kvaratskhelia just playing amazing on the left-hand side, even though he's just a wild card. They've given him the license to do what he wants. Maybe this is why Spalletti does deserve more credit, is because he seems to understand his players, and he's got them. He's unleashed their abilities. Sometimes a player goes to a new club and he has to fall into the way that they want him to play. In this occasion, he's clearly understands his players and is letting them do what they do best. We've seen that with Anguissa as well, playing on sort of the right side of that 3-man midfield. He's been unbelievable. I mean, what a great player. Can break the lines, can find a pass, can score a goal. Like, he's got it all, really, Anguissa, in many ways. So yeah, I think Spalletti deserves a huge amount of credit. And there was that moment we were really excited about Napoli last season. I'm even more excited about them this time, because I just think the problem with Napoli last season is there didn't seem to be much of a plan B when plan A wasn't working out. This year, there just seems to be multiple different options that Spalletti, they can change up that team, mix up that attack. They've got options everywhere. Maybe in defence, they're a little light in case of an injury. Rahmani and Kim Min-jae, if one of those gets injured, that will be a real testing moment to see what that defence is truly made of. I'm not sold on Merit in goal necessarily.
Just been given a new contract.
I wish they'd got Navas. I wish that deal had got over the line. That would have been the icing on the cake. I think the thing is, I also think with Osimhen out, if there's another injury in the forward line, I do think there could be problems there too. Like, I wouldn't be overly surprised if after the World Cup, maybe things start to go a little. I don't know. I think it's just having watched Napoli over the years, there's always something will potentially go wrong. But that's not to take away from Spalletti. And I think a big thing for Spalletti as well at Napoli is that for the first time in half a decade, we look at this Napoli team and it's not Sarri's Napoli. Like, this is Spalletti's Napoli. And I think when Ancelotti was there, when Gattuso was there, it was still Sarri's team, and it was still managers kind of adapting what Sarri was doing there with the same players that Sarri had there. who had been made by him. Like this is someone who's actually taken the team forward from that era, and obviously kind of forced to, because a lot of those players left in the summer. Like obviously huge characters in the likes of Insigne and Koulibaly and Mertens, but yeah, this is Napoli is now has now been built in another man's image, and yeah, like there's very little that you can fault Spalletti on over the last year, really. Yeah,
absolutely. I think often when you have a massive summer of change, you sign 6 or 7 new first team players, you'd probably be quite happy if 2 really came off. It feels like every single one of those new signings has like made an impact at some stage. Like even Tanguy and Dembele coming off the bench in lots of games has been brilliant. And it just feels like, for the first time in a while, Napoli feels like a destination club. Like all the players they brought in this summer really wanted to be at Napoli, and all the players they lost probably thought, Koulibaly, phenomenal servant for them, but wanted to go to the next level. Probably went to Chelsea a year or two too late, to be totally honest. Fabian Ruiz got an opportunity at PSG. Insigne was ageing out. Mertens was ageing out. And they brought in these players that were so hungry to succeed for Napoli. And I just wouldn't be surprised if this journey continued. Like, I'm not saying they'll necessarily win Serie A. I think that would be still quite unexpected, even at this stage. But there's no reason they can't make a quarter-final, at least, of the Champions League. We've seen worse teams than Napoli.
Oh, yeah.
Like Villarreal got to the semis last year. Like Leipzig got to the semis a couple of years ago. Atalanta went deep a couple of years ago. I think Napoli are above that level right now. So, yeah, long may it continue, and fair play to Spalletti.
They are a joy to watch. They create so many chances. To blitz Ajax 6-1 in Amsterdam, it cannot be understated what a result that is. Just everything they were doing in the final third was paying off, and that is down to Spalletti. That's the confidence that he's instilled that team to go out there and express themselves to the max degree, and that's why he deserves exactly more credit than he's getting.
And for sure, and it was also the second hardest group probably on paper this year, after the Barca Inter Bayern group. Like Liverpool, Ajax, Rangers, Napoli. That's an insane difficult group. And Napoli have just walked it. They made it look so easy. Qualification not necessarily secured just yet, but come on, they're going through. Surely. So guys, that's our thoughts on Spalletti. Let us know what you guys thought of the show today. What are you thinking about those new managers, going to those new clubs, those big match predictions, etc. Henry, what would you like to push to? What would you recommend?
Well, if you've... Stat Wars is still going strong. There's been some great episodes so far. Some serious knowledge, I must say. Some serious knowledge on display. So yeah, go follow that series if you haven't already. I'm struggling to think what explains we've got coming out this week. I think we've got one on Brazil, actually. We've got a look at Brazil.
On Sunday.
Yeah, written by Pato. I voiced it, probably the best part of it, I'd say. But it was really it's cool. I'm really excited to see what Brazil can do at this World Cup. I was actually watching the highlights of them play North Korea in 2010 before we came.
The Maicon goal.
The Maicon goal. Yeah.
I was actually practicing that technique the last time I played football. the kind of the
Jeremy Lynch
the right side. Well, kind of more so just the toe punt. I think that's the only way I can do.
You're quite good at the toe punt, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you been watching my toe punts?
I have.
Okay, interesting.
Toe punts per 90.
Yeah, all the time. They're actually quite useful. I don't generally do them at six-a-side, but they're actually quite useful because they need to catch people off guard. But I was practicing that technique, and it's hard to pull off. Neymar is the explained that came out on Sunday. Yeah, is Neymar the most disrespected player of our generation, I believe, is the title. Really good video. Go and check that out.
Nice, thank you very much. And yeah, I've gone a little bit translucent in the last 5 minutes. We have shut the curtains in the final few weeks, but there is a bit of light that is beaming onto my retinas right now. So we do need to finish the shoot because I'm in a bit of pain right now. But thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Eurofootball Daily, and we'll catch you next time.